"I'm sorry, sir, but we have no record of your reservation," the young clerk said, his tone sharp and dismissive. "And frankly, this hotel is a bit too exclusive for walk-ins like you, especially looking like that. Perhaps try somewhere simpler down the road." Samuel Miller stood at the polished marble counter of the Grand Excelsior Hotel. He was an old man, perhaps 75, with eyes that had seen too much but still held a deep kindness. His suit was simple, neatly pressed but clearly old, the fabric softened by time. He clutched a worn, soft-sided bag in one hand. He looked like someone's gentle grandfather, not a man who had once walked through fire. He had traveled for most of the day, first by bus, then by train. A wave of tiredness washed over him. All he wanted was a clean bed and a quiet room for the night. The city lights outside seemed far too bright, the lobby far too loud after his long journey. Tomorrow was an important day, a very important day indeed. He was due to attend a special ceremony, a reunion of his old unit, and an event where he, along with a few others, was to be publicly honored. It was a gathering he had looked forward to, and dreaded a little, for many years. It was for men like him, men who had served, men who remembered. Deep in his inside coat pocket, beneath his equally worn wallet, was a small, creased piece of paper. It was yellowed with age. On it, in faded ink, were a few phone numbers. Numbers he had carried for decades, but had never used. One, in particular, was a direct line, a promise from a man who had become very important, a promise made in a dusty, dangerous place a lifetime ago. "For emergencies only, Sam?" the man had said. Samuel truly hoped tonight wouldn't count as one. The young clerk, whose name tag read Kevin, tapped impatiently on his glowing computer screen. A self-important smirk played on his lips. He barely glanced up at Samuel, his gaze flicking over the old man's attire with obvious disdain. "I do have a reservation," Samuel said softly, his voice calm, betraying none of the weariness he felt. He had learned long ago that a quiet voice often carried further than a loud one. It was made several weeks ago. "The name is Miller, Samuel Miller." Kevin let out an exaggerated sigh, loud enough for other staff members to notice. "Look, old man," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I've checked, okay? There's nothing under Miller. Maybe you're confused. It happens, you know, at your age. Wrong hotel? Wrong city, even?" He chuckled at his own cruel joke. Samuel felt a familiar ache settle in his chest. Not anger, not anymore. Just a profound, bone-deep weariness. He had faced bullets and bombs with less arrogance than this young man wielded. "Could you please check again?" he asked, keeping his voice steady and polite. "It might be under a group booking. For the Veterans Honor Gala, it's being held nearby tomorrow." Kevin rolled his eyes so dramatically they almost disappeared into his head. "Veterans? Oh, so you're one of those," he sneered, his voice laced with contempt. "Probably looking for a free room or a discount. This hotel, sir, is for distinguished paying guests, not for charity cases or people looking for a handout because they once wore a uniform. Now, if you don't mind, there are actual important people waiting." He gestured vaguely towards the mostly empty, opulent lobby. The unfairness of the words charity case cut deeper than Samuel expected. It was a slap in the face to everything he and his comrades had endured. "If you believe veterans deserve our utmost respect, not suspicion and scorn, type honor our heroes below." Samuel felt the sting of those carelessly cruel words. Charity case? Him? His mind flashed back to muddy foxholes, to the deafening roar of battle, to the faces of young friends he'd carried, friends who never came home. He thought of the sacrifices, the unspoken horrors, the very reasons he was in this city, for a gala that celebrated that sacrifice, that remembered those friends, not to beg for charity. He could, of course, just walk away, find another hotel. The thought was tempting. It was late, the city was unfamiliar, and his old bones ached with fatigue. But a stubborn sense of justice, a principle he had lived by his entire life, held him rooted to the spot. This wasn't just about a room anymore, it was about dignity. It was about respect for all who had served. He considered asking for the manager. But looking at Kevin's smug face, he suspected the young man's disdainful attitude might be tolerated, perhaps even encouraged, in an establishment that valued appearance over substance. Then, his fingers brushed against the folded paper in his pocket, the emergency number. The promise made by then Captain Thomas Harrison, now CEO Thomas Harrison of this very hotel chain, a man whose life Samuel had saved under heavy fire. Sam, if you ever need anything at all, you call this number, day or night. He hadn't spoken to Tom Harrison in nearly 20 years. He hated to bother him, to call in such an old marker for something like this, but Kevin's insult echoed in his mind. Samuel took a slow, deliberate, deep breath. All right then, he said quietly, his voice betraying no emotion. He reached into his inside coat pocket, his hand steady, and pulled out his old, battered flip phone, a relic from another era, and the creased, yellowed paper. His fingers, though gnarled with age, carefully unfolded it. Kevin watched him, a look of open contempt mixed with amusement on his face. What now, Grandpa? Calling your war buddies to come and complain? Good luck with that. They probably can't even hear you. Samuel ignored the jibe. He squinted slightly at the faded ink, then carefully, methodically, dialed the number. The phone on the other end rang only twice. A crisp, powerful voice answered immediately. Harrison speaking. General, Mr. Harrison? Samuel began, his voice still soft. This is Samuel Miller, Sergeant Samuel Miller, from the Old Third. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line, then a moment of stunned silence. When Harrison spoke again, his voice was transformed, filled with warmth and genuine shock. Sam? Samuel Miller. Is that really you? My God, man, it's been far too long. What can I do for you, old friend? Is everything all right? Are you in trouble? The concern in Harrison's voice was palpable, cutting through the years. Well, Thomas, I'm at your Excelsior Hotel, the one downtown, Samuel explained calmly, his gaze steady on Kevin, who was now looking a little less sure of himself. And I seem to be having a small bit of trouble checking in. The young man at the front desk here, Kevin, he says there's no room for me, and that I should look elsewhere. He didn't raise his voice, didn't list Kevin's insults. He simply stated the facts. On the other end, Harrison went very quiet for a beat. When he spoke again, his voice was like Arctic steel. Sam, stay right where you are. Do not move an inch. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 10 minutes. The line clicked dead with a decisive snap. Samuel slowly folded his phone and put it back in his pocket, along with the precious piece of paper. He waited. Kevin fidgeted, trying to look busy, but his eyes kept darting towards Samuel, a flicker of unease now replacing his earlier arrogance. Big shot on the phone, huh? Kevin muttered, trying to regain his composure, but his voice lacked conviction. Less than 10 minutes later, the grand glass doors of the Excelsior Hotel swished open with an urgent, almost silent efficiency. Two men in impeccably tailored dark suits strode in first, their eyes scanning the lobby with professional alertness. They moved with a purpose that made other guests turn and stare. Immediately behind them, a taller, distinguished figure entered. He had a mane of silver hair, a face etched with authority, and an unmistakable air of command that filled the large space. This was Thomas Harrison, the chief executive officer of the entire Excelsior Hotel Group. Kevin's smirk, which had been faltering, completely vanished. His jaw literally dropped. He recognized Mr. Harrison instantly from the large portrait in the staff room and countless company memos. His face, already pale, turned a sickly shade of white. He looked as if he'd seen a ghost. Mr. Harrison, sir, Kevin stammered, his voice cracking. He fumbled to straighten his tie, his hands shaking. What an unexpected, great honor. We weren't expecting you, sir. Mr. Harrison didn't even acknowledge Kevin with a glance. His sharp eyes swept the lobby and landed on Samuel Miller, standing quietly by the counter. A broad, genuinely warm smile instantly transformed Harrison's stern features. He strode directly to Samuel, bypassing the cowering clerk, and extended both his hands. Sam, my dear friend, it is so unbelievably good to see you. Samuel returned the smile, a gentle relief in his eyes. It's good to see you too, Thomas. You haven't changed much. Harrison clapped Samuel on the shoulder, then turned. His smile evaporated like mist in the sun as his gaze fell upon Kevin. His voice, when he spoke, was low, controlled, and utterly chilling. What is your name, son? Kevin, sir, the clerk stuttered, his earlier arrogance completely extinguished, replaced by a raw, naked fear. He looked like a cornered animal. Kevin, Harrison repeated, drawing the name out, each syllable like a drop of ice. This gentleman, this quiet man you've been so dismissive of, is Mr. Samuel Miller. He is not just any guest, he is a national hero. He holds the Medal of Honor, our nation's highest award for valor. He saved my life, and the lives of 20 other men, in a hellish place that you cannot even begin to imagine in your worst nightmares. He is here in this city to attend the Veterans Honor Gala as my personal, most esteemed guest. Kevin looked as though he might collapse. He stared at Samuel, this unassuming elderly man in a worn suit with wide, uncomprehending eyes. The Medal of Honor? Saved the CEO's life? It was impossible. Harrison's voice rose, though it remained icily controlled, each word cutting through the suddenly silent lobby. And you, Kevin, told him there was no room? You treated this man, this hero, like a charity case? You suggested he was confused because of his age? Harrison's eyes were like blue flames. Have you ever witnessed someone being unfairly judged? How did it make you feel? Type justice if you believe everyone deserves fair treatment. Kevin opened his mouth, then closed it again. A small, choked sound escaped him. He looked from Harrison's furious face to Samuel's calm, patient one, and his own was a mask of terror and dawning realization. Mr. Harrison, without taking his eyes off Kevin, gestured curtly to one of his aides who had followed him in. Johnson, ensure Mr. Miller is immediately escorted to the presidential suite. It is to be comped for the duration of his stay. All services, all meals, everything. And arrange for my personal limousine and driver to be at his disposal, to take him to the gala tomorrow. He will, of course, be seated at my head table. Consider it done, Mr. Harrison. The aide, Johnson, replied crisply. He approached Samuel with a respectful smile. Mr. Miller, sir, if you'll come with me? Samuel, looking a little embarrassed by all the sudden fuss, gave a small nod. Harrison then turned his full wrathful attention back to Kevin. His voice was now deadly calm, which was somehow more frightening. As for you, young man, he said, his words precise and final, your behavior tonight was not just unprofessional, it was a profound disgrace to this company, to its values, and to common human decency. Consider this your final minute of employment with the Excelsior Group. Head of security will escort you from the premises. And I expect a sincere handwritten letter of apology to Mr. Miller to be on my desk before you vacate this building. Kevin just nodded mutely, his face ashen. He looked down at his trembling hands, utterly defeated, unable to meet the CEO's piercing gaze or the curious stares of the other hotel guests and staff who had gathered, drawn by the undeniable drama unfolding in their lobby. Harrison then addressed the assembled staff, his voice ringing with authority. Let this be a stark lesson to every single one of you. We pride ourselves on service, but service begins with respect. Every guest who walks through these doors deserves respect. But those individuals who have served this nation, those who have risked everything for our freedoms, they are to receive our utmost, unwavering honor and consideration. Effective immediately, we will be implementing comprehensive new training programs across the entire chain to ensure an incident like this shameful display never, ever happens again. He then turned back to Samuel, his expression softening instantly into one of genuine remorse and affection. Sam, my friend, from the bottom of my heart, I am so profoundly sorry for this appalling welcome. This is not who we are. This is not how the Excelsior treats its heroes or any guest. Please, allow me to personally escort you to your suite and ensure you are comfortable. Samuel, ever humble, simply nodded. Thank you, Thomas. That's very kind of you. An apology is more than enough. But he knew Harrison meant every word. Samuel was quickly and respectfully settled into the presidential suite, a luxurious set of rooms larger than his entire small house back home. It had panoramic views of the city. Mr. Harrison stayed for over an hour, dismissing his aides, and the two old soldiers talked. They spoke of old times, of shared memories both good and bad, catching up on the decades that had passed since they last saw each other under very different, more dangerous skies. The CEO personally ensured Samuel had everything he could possibly need, from a hot meal to his preferred newspaper for the morning. The story of what happened in the lobby that evening spread like wildfire, not just through the hotel, but through the entire Excelsior Hotel Group worldwide. True to Mr. Harrison's word, new policies were swiftly drafted and implemented. Special guest relations training programs were immediately rolled out, focusing on awareness and respectful treatment of veterans and elderly guests, and emphasizing the importance of dignity for all. Kevin, the arrogant clerk, was indeed fired that very night. He did manage to scribble a short, humbled letter of apology before being escorted out, a letter Samuel read with a sigh, hoping the young man had learned something. The next day, Samuel attended the Veterans Honor Gala. He was, as promised, conveyed in Mr. Harrison's limousine and seated at the CEO's prominent table, treated not just as a guest, but as a true hero of honor. He didn't speak of the unpleasant incident at the hotel. That simply wasn't his way. He preferred to focus on reconnecting with his old comrades, but others did speak of it. The story became a quiet legend, a reminder within the company and the wider community about the quiet heroes who walk among us. Samuel Miller remained the quiet, unassuming, humble man he had always been. He was glad things were set right, not for his own personal gratification, but because he hoped it might prevent someone else, veteran or not, from experiencing such needless disrespect. He was immensely proud of his service, of the sacrifices made by his brothers in arms, but he never sought special treatment or accolades, only basic fairness and understanding. This story teaches us a timeless and powerful lesson. Never, ever judge a book by its cover. The quietest, most ordinary-looking people often carry the most extraordinary histories, stories filled with incredible courage, quiet resilience, and profound sacrifice. Heroes don't always wear capes or shiny medals openly. Sometimes they wear old suits and carry weary smiles. They walk among us every single day, and they deserve not just our recognition, but our deepest, most sincere respect. If you believe that our veterans, our quiet heroes who have given so much, deserve unwavering honor and respect every single day of their lives, please type "Never Forget Our Heroes" in the comments below. We truly want to hear from you. And please, take a moment to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. Stories that aim to uplift, to inspire, and to remind us of the best of the human spirit. Remember, a little kindness, a little respect can make a monumental difference in someone's world. Thank you for watching.